A slew of new winter storm watches have been issued now, including Milwaukee, Madison, down to Springfield, even St. Louis. These winter storm watches are in effect for the next snow that's going to be dropping in. We'll back you up and we'll take a look at the warnings, but we also have a couple of things happening here. Winter storm warnings still going, blizzard warnings going for the lake effect we're seeing, and underneath this we have these winter storm watches for the next system that's sliding in from the northwest. It includes Grand Rapids, Lansing, again down to Indianapolis, now under winter storm watches. The best chance for snow is going to be north of the city here. So once you get up into central and northern Indiana, especially up towards Chicago, you're going to see a better chance for snow. The further south and west you go, Quincy, down to St. Louis, down to Springfield, a better chance that you guys are probably going to see more of a mix of snow and rain. It'll end as rain, and then you've got winter storm warnings now for Des Moines, north to Mason City, all the way into southern parts of Minnesota now with winter storm warnings for 1 line and 2 line of counties deep. Winter weather advisories further to the north up towards Minneapolis. Back to the north and west, these warnings and watches extend almost in a northwest fashion. Not up to Bismarck, no winter weather advisories for you, but Pierre, we are under winter weather advisories just to your north. This looks like the area for the heaviest snow just north of Pierre here into South Dakota. And then as you head back to the north and west, winter storm warnings going now. Snow already breaking out across Montana tonight. We'll see quite a bit of snow. This includes Great Falls. And then this is flanked by winter weather advisories down toward Billings, and then off to the north of that too, up along the Canadian border. And then widening this out, again, watches haven't been issued any further to the east. This is just going to take you through the time frame of this forecast period. All right, let's look at what's going on here in the upper levels. I want to start with, let's start here. 2 systems to watch. I had another map pulled. This is actually the map I wanted to show you, and I'll go ahead and do that. This is the piece of energy that's diving in, that's going to form our winter storm now. But this right here, this is our second piece of energy that's still out at sea and is going to start to really play into what's going to happen heading into next week with our next winter storm that we're watching a little bit further to the east. Let's track them both. First, this trough starting to swing into parts of Alaska, bringing some rain here. But here comes the snow picking up across Montana as we head into Friday. And then this low starts to get going as we head into Saturday. We'll look at this a much closer in just a second. Big Aleutian low spinning up, bringing a lot of wind into Alaska. And now the snow is going hard here from St. Louis north up into Iowa, Chicago, moving into Michigan as we head into Saturday night into early Sunday morning. And then this lifts north and east pretty quickly, bringing some heavy snow into Ontario, further to the north and east into Quebec. And that moves away fairly quickly. There's the second piece of energy. Let's track it really quick. Boom, 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 boom. There it goes. So it moves into the Pacific Northwest at first. It's going to bring some light rain and snow here. It looks pretty innocent, right? It's very weak. You can kind of see that shortwave energy diving through the Rockies with some rain and snow. But look how it tries to connect with a little bit of moisture here and a little bit of energy along the Gulf Coast. All right. So now you're combining something into next week. This is the afternoon. Well, this is actually the early morning GFS. Let me give you a new data run here. This would be the evening run, even newer. Let's pushing this out in time. Let the data load. There you go. So there comes the moisture. Still looking pretty similar here on the GFS this evening. And how about that? The GFS is really blowing this storm up on the East Coast heading into Monday and Tuesday. That's a really strong looking storm. And I'm going to reverse this, follow it backwards, guys. Boom, 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 move through the Rockies, and now it's way out here in the ocean. Once this energy moves ashore, you're going to get a better sampling of it, and I think at that point your forecast is going to get a lot better. We're starting to sample that atmosphere now. That's why we're starting to see that confidence grow, and you're seeing all of the winter storm watches and warnings go out now, and the winter storm warnings, I think these will likely get expanded heading into tomorrow's forecast packages in the morning from the National Weather Service, and we may see these watches get extended. Here's a closer look. This is the European from this afternoon. New data coming in on it, showing a heavy band of snow starting to pick up across central Iowa as we head into early Saturday morning. So you've got some time to prep for it. If you're traveling, keep all of this in mind as we head now into Friday night and Saturday. I'm going to back this up just a little bit because I kind of glossed over what's happening up into Montana. Some heavy snow here into the early morning hours. Also across southern Alberta, southern Saskatchewan, not up towards Winnipeg, no snow here. This is all going south of you. The heaviest snow also just to the south of Minneapolis. This snow starts to pick up as we head into Saturday morning across Illinois, southern parts of Iowa, may actually shift over to a little bit of rain. I mean, it's very close here. That's why some of these counties here, the very tip, aren't under any type of winter weather advisories even. But just to the north, a big thump of snow, I think, across central Iowa. I'm going to show you those totals, which could exceed a foot. And some of the wording from the National Weather Service is talking about more than a foot of snow possible. And now we're sending this thing east. Notice St. Louis transitioning over to some rain as we head into Saturday evening as that warm air works in from the south and west as your low goes just to your north. But we stay all snow across northern Illinois, southern parts of Wisconsin, into Iowa, and now into Michigan. Right along the border of Michigan, Ohio, and Indiana, I think this would be the area that could possibly mix over to some rain. Indianapolis, you start as snow, you end as rain as that warm air surges in from the south and west, and then you'll flip back to snow on the back end of it as the precipitation starts to come to an end. But before it does so, we're going to add that snow up. Let's take a look at the numbers. We'll start off with the National Digital Forecast Database. These are touch numbers from the National Weather Service. Bullseye right across Iowa, arguably over into parts of northwest Illinois, and then also here into southern Wisconsin, with some lighter snow back across North and South Dakota, but a peak area right into this region where you could see some heavier snow across South Dakota and North Dakota, and then back into Montana, some areas seeing more than 6 inches. But once you get into central Iowa, now you're talking a foot plus, and that extends over into parts of northern Illinois and then into Michigan. Some of this is going to be lake effect, by the way. See, look, you're seeing some of the snow on the table now, a couple more inches. So these numbers, which are really pushed up into Michigan, are a result of what's already falling right now. A little bit further to the north, this is not the touch data from the National Weather Service. This is the afternoon European, which shows you that that snow expanding further north into Canada. Very light amounts here along the U.S.-Canadian border compared to what you could see, but still, nonetheless, a couple of inches. But once you get back towards the Montana, Alberta, southern Saskatchewan border, southwest Saskatchewan border, close to 7, 8, 10 inches of snow possible. And then this drives off to the south and east. And again, the European trying to put out 13, 14, 15 inches of snow. And if you read the National Weather Service winter storm warnings, I just want to give you one really good example. Let's go into Des Moines. I think it's interesting to read 9 up to 14 inches. Heavy snow expected. Again, this is just one city that I called out here into central Iowa, into Des Moines, where more than a foot of snow is possible. And it's being modeled out here on the European, and the National Weather Service seeing that going, yeah, there's something here. I get a lot of heat on this channel sometimes, people saying those models are overdoing it. And sometimes they do, but National Weather Service also seeing it. It's one of those moments that if you've been on the channel before, I used to say when I did forecasting on TV, I would sit down, I would do a forecast. I would spend sometimes a couple of hours, depending on how complicated it was, and go back and look at what the National Weather Service is saying, or any other source, and you look at it, and when you see the numbers line up, you start to go, okay, well, this looks pretty good. And you're starting to see these forecast numbers line up with some of this model data too. This is the European. I'm going to flip it over to what we're seeing here. Oh, we just got a new model run. It's not going to show us that. Let's go back to this afternoon's run. So there you go. This is probably going to be accounting for the fluff in the snow too. So some pretty high snow ratios, which will give you more fluff in the snow as far as the accumulation goes. And then that moves north and east into Ontario, Quebec. Some areas could see well over 6 inches of snow. And we've still got some lake effect snow to contend with too. With the lake effect snow warnings, this is what's going to continue to fall as we head through the evening hours into Friday. Eventually that settles down as this next snow moves in. And now we're watching something different moving from the south and west. Boom, right there. Are we seeing snow in Tennessee and Kentucky and further to the north and east? More on that in just a second. Let's talk about our first snow event. The big snow totals closer in here to Iowa, more than a foot of snow. Once you get down into Missouri, those totals fall off pretty quickly. We'll be transitioning to rain, but before we do so across Missouri, we are going to see some accumulations, a couple of inches possible. Again, these are touch numbers. Up into Minnesota, we've got, again, a couple of inches towards the Twin Cities, but get south, and now you're talking 8, 9, 10 inches, close to a foot once you get into Iowa. Further to the south, let's go into Missouri, where there is also going to be some snow. Not as much. You get up towards St. Louis, those numbers fall off pretty quickly. But before the rain moves in a couple of inches, I think, it's one of the reasons you're seeing those winter storm warnings start right here at about St. Louis up to Quincy, and then the heavier snow to the north of that. Across northeast Missouri, some snow, but that warm air moving in, changing things over to rain. And I think it's all rain the further south you go. You may see a little bit of snow to start a little bit further to the south. Into Michigan we go. Here's the lake effect, but boom, there comes the heavier snow. So into Chicago, the official forecast right now, looking at about almost 8 inches. better than 6 anyway. National Weather Service, again, has those winter storm watches out for Chicagoland. And then further to the north and east, this is not the touch numbers from the National Digital Forecast Database. This is the European. You've got the lake effect going. And then look, I'll show you where this is coming from in just a second. But the new European from today, trying to put a little bit of snow here into parts of the northeast. Let's go in a little bit closer here, and I'll show you what we're looking at. Let's go into New York. This is the new run that just came out. This is the afternoon run. So check that out. It's trying to put some snow into Connecticut. A couple of inches here. More than 6 inches showed up on the afternoon run of the European. Not quite, well, arguably very close to New York City, but I just feel like this is going to be a little too warm here into New York. But northern New Jersey, the Poconos, watch this one as it develops later in the week. More to come. Let's track the systems across the country. I showed you the totals, but let's start out west. Here comes the snow moving in as we head through the evening hours into Friday. That drops south through the Rockies. A little bit of light snow. It could be heavy in some of the mountain areas, but otherwise not a huge deal. And then here comes your second piece of energy. That'll bring some light snow into Utah, Colorado, possibly New Mexico, and spill east. And then another system behind this bringing some snow across the northern Rockies, with temperatures getting pretty cold heading into next week. There's your snow totals across Montana, which we've already talked about. Lighter snow amounts once you get further south into the Rockies, but if you push this out pretty far, I think there are more snow chances. Maybe not as strong as what we're actually seeing further to the east. Very cold Arctic air. This is setting the stage for what I think is going to be a cold forecast further east. Look at these temperatures heading into Saturday morning, below zero across Montana. Highs across the prairies barely getting into the low teens. Then once we get into Sunday morning, even colder temperatures under that snowpack. Look at that, 10 to maybe 15 degrees below zero. These are air temperatures, not wind chills. And now your cold is building. The sun angle is super low the further north you go, so we're definitely not going to warm up much in the day. And with all that snow on the ground, even if we do see sunshine, it's going to be cold. Here's the timing of the snow. If you're tracking it, the time is above my head is Eastern time. There comes the low, moving into Missouri, lifting north. If you're just joining the live stream, you can back it up and take a look at the snow totals that we're talking about and all the watches and warnings. And now as this low moves towards Chicago, you start to really pick that snow up. And I would say, I mentioned this earlier today, I wonder how much lake enhancement we'll see as our winds come out of the east here with our low just to the south of places like Milwaukee. Time will tell. And now we're watching the next system that's going to drop in to the plains. Look how amplified this is. You can kind of see, I'm drawing your height lines here so you can sort of see how it's digging in. There it comes, swinging east, picking up some of this Gulf moisture. And look at what the afternoon European run tries to do. This is actually, I think, a little cold, but hey, we're moving into December. It's trying to put some snow maybe into Bowling Green. I don't know if we get the snow into Nashville, but keep an eye on this time frame. Here's a look at your temperatures. Certainly cold. High temperatures on Friday, not getting very high. We'll barely get into the teens again across the northern U.S. Texas, even cool here. We're down into the 50s and 60s for highs. And then once we move out in time, this is going pretty far out. Monday into Tuesday, another reinforcing shot of some cold looks to be on the way once we get toward the end of the week in and around the Great Lakes. December starting very cold for sure. A better look at the snow the further east. Here we go. It's moving toward the Great Lakes into southern Ontario. Maybe some mixed precip here into the Appalachians heading into early Sunday morning as that precip shield starts to build to the north and east. Otherwise, all liquid from the Ohio River south all the way into the deep south. As our front moves through, winds will come in out of the west. It will turn colder. Maybe a little bit of lake effect behind this. And then we turn cold and we turn our attention to the next storm, which starts to move out of the Gulf. Some overrunning snow, I think, going here. This is the afternoon European. This looks maybe more in line with what I think is going to happen, but it's still showing a storm. And look, this is the further away it moves from the coast, the colder it's going to be all the way down to the coast. That would give you a better chance of getting snow into New York City, definitely into places like Western Mass, into Connecticut. And then look, from West Virginia, north and east into Pennsylvania, so close to Philly. You're right on that line. Jersey Shore, probably all rain with this one. And then that lifts off to the north and east. I want to do something for comparison just since we're here. This is the GFS from this evening, literally just a few moments ago. Same storm, different setup. It's got high pressure wedging down the east face of the Appalachians with some warmer air moving up west of the mountains, keeping it rain as far north as Charleston, West Virginia. But that puts some heavier snow, though, into Pennsylvania. So say Allentown, north up to Albany, with kind of a mix. This looks weird. GFS always wants to do this over to a freezing rain sleet mix. I just don't see that. To me, I think it's just going to be more of a rain snow event, especially once you get up here into the Northeast. With your low hugging the coast, that tells me we're probably going to get rain into Long Island, New York City, and even into coastal areas into Connecticut. But this would put a heavier dump north of that into Maine and into New England. More to come. We need to refine this. If you missed the beginning of the video, I talked about how the energy that's going to form this is out in the ocean south of Alaska. We have no way of really sampling the atmosphere and plugging that into the model data. These models will get better once this energy moves ashore heading into the weekend. So stay tuned. If you've made it this far in the video, hope you'll subscribe and come back. I'll be tracking it all weekend. Hey, it's Thanksgiving and we're doing a live update here on this. So if you enjoy weather content, you're a weather geek like me, subscribe. Temperatures. Is Black Friday still a thing? Shopping? I think the age of the internet has sort of put it out of business, but you remember that if you're old enough to remember. I know there's still some Black Friday things going on, but my wife was just telling me even today, she remembers the days when they would get up early and go out, and I mean they wouldn't even go to bed sometimes and get the deals early. Well, if you're going to go out early on Black Friday, it's definitely going to be chilly heading into the early morning hours with numbers below freezing in many areas, all the way even to the Gulf Coast, down into the 30s. Highs on Friday, barely getting above freezing across the Ohio Valley. It's cold for sure. If you're visiting family in these areas, if you're from the south, you're freezing. And it's going to stay chilly here too. A little bit of warm air tries to surge north ahead of our system. That's the reason you're going to see that transition over to some rain. Look how close it is into Indianapolis, getting very close to freezing, at least your temperatures. And then here comes our next shot of cold as we head into Sunday and then into Monday. As that piece of energy moves north and east, some colder air will wrap in behind it. And then the real cold moves across the Great Lakes heading into Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Cold times ahead, my friends. All right. I don't know the snow totals yet for Pittsburgh. I don't even know if it's going to snow in Pittsburgh at this point with the second storm. So way too early to talk about those totals yet if you're joining the live stream. Let's wait and see. A little bit of snow on the way with this first system. Not a lot. The second one, keep an eye on it. Could be interesting. All right. See you next time.